But interestingly enough, chatting to candidates and getting them to move to a company, one of the biggest things that we found, and for the guys to even have a discussion with a potential employer, has been around the remote working opportunity. Or even, in Joburg, even a hybrid opportunity. Without that, and the candidates are just not interested.
The great things that you can do on the interactive tool is actually we could put that in,
Yeah.
whether you're kind of working for an international employer, and then see where those salaries are.
Yeah.
If someone's living in Western Cape or Gauteng, like there's so many variables that you can kind of work on there that you can actually benchmark and see where your salary is
Fantastic.
in comparison to other people. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the ITWeb TV. Today we're going to be looking at ITWeb salary survey, and I'm joined here today by my former colleague Ernie Hipner, who's now the MD of CareerWeb. Ernie, welcome.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having us today, and I look forward to delving into the IT salary survey results.
There's some great research in there. There's a lot of data that we've been able to pull. And we've created this interactive benchmarking tool that I think people will be able to use very easily on our site. You can kind of compare different metrics and really kind of pull up a comparison of where you should be, where you think you should be based on where you live or your years of qualifications or kind of experience, etc. So it's a really useful tool. But today what we're going to do is Ernie and I will go through some of the high-level research and then we'll kind of look at the benchmarking tool. But I encourage you, please, when you finish watching this video, to go and have a look at the benchmarking tool. It really is, it's going to provide a lot of value, I think, for people that are either looking for to maybe get a raise, to see what they're actually worth, but also to for employers to kind of see, okay, I'm looking at this candidate, really, what should I be paying them? So let's get cracking. Ernie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what CareerWeb is?
Super, Adrian. So we started back in 2000, just when the age of advertising in newspapers on a Wednesday for a job or looking for candidates happened, and then we sort of started CareerWeb with the aim of focusing specifically on IT and telecoms professionals. So that's our core focus, and it's been like that over the years. That we've focused on primarily, where we've sort of built a network of over 100,000 IT professionals in South Africa. And we sort of allow them to come, sort of engage with us on new opportunities that are available in the marketplace from some of the top employers in South Africa and also abroad. And basically, that's what we've been doing, is sort of advertising our clients' positions on the site, and obviously allowing these IT professionals to connect with these opportunities and to find sort of their next perfect ICT job opportunity through our platform.
So it's fair to say that you're an expert. You might not want to admit it, but you're probably an expert in the careers and the IT industry job market.
Yes, well, I've seen a lot of jobs. I've seen a lot of salary information, a lot of different trends happening in the market, over the years. So I just hope I can, sort of give some info and insight into actually what's happening on the ground, and sort of just hopefully it sort of correlates with the findings of the salary survey.
Okay, great. So what I'll do first is I'll kind of give an overview of what have been the most kind of typical responses that we've seen.
Okay.
If there's anything there that you think stands out or kind of is contrary to what you're seeing, then by all means just jump in.
Fantastic.
So let's get started on the salary survey. Let's drill down. So there's a number of different questions that people have been asked, and just to give you a high-level overview, we'll kind of go through those criteria. Then when you're able to use the tool to benchmark your own salaries, you'll be able to see and kind of know what you're able to look for. So the first question, obviously we kind of go with demographics. The first question is around gender. What we saw is that 80% of the respondents were male, 19% female. I'm told that 20 years ago when we first started the salary survey, that has been fairly consistent. It's obviously not reflective of where the IT industry is now. I was doing some other research and found out that the Commission for Employment Equity says we're at about a 60-40% split now in favour of males versus females. And I think that's kind of it looks like the balance is slowly evening out. We're now in the month of August, so
Yeah.
obviously Women's Day, we'll see more data about that coming out shortly. But yeah, I think one of the things that the survey does show, that despite that kind of gender gap kind of evening itself out slightly, when it comes to the salaries, there's a 176,000 rand gap between male respondents on average versus the female respondents on average. And are you seeing, like, is that something you can see consistently? I suppose when you're advertising jobs, it's not male or female related.
Yeah, it's interesting, Adrian, that you say that, because sort of what we notice is, I think when clients are looking for candidates, like you say, there's no sort of difference in the salary range. But I guess as years have gone, and sort of a male candidate or a female candidate has worked in an organisation, obviously that's, I think, where the differences in salaries have come in. The interesting thing that what I see is specifically on the sort of hardware side, the sort of technicians and also developers and business analysts and project managers, the gap salary-wise, and also the hiring of male and female candidates is almost pretty equal.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that there's there might be a slight difference still in favour of male candidates, but one of the things that I've noted is it's very close. And actually, interesting enough, is some of the top project managers and business analysts that we see being hired by our clients have actually been female candidates, interesting enough, and earning and commanding some really, really good salaries. I think the thing that I noted, though, is when it comes to looking for your managerial levels or above, sort of exec levels and that type of thing, I think there still is a gap between the male and female candidates.
Okay.
Where I've noticed, like, if I look at like engineering leads, your team lead business analysts, or your software development managers and that type of thing, I still see quite a strong influence going towards the male candidates. And hopefully, sort of as time goes by, we'll see that sort of shift more to the female candidates. But overall, if I look at it in terms of the developers and project managers, business analysts, those type of roles, I'd say, the females are definitely sort of catching up there. And it's quite well represented in those areas.
Okay. So then, to go on the subject of race in the demographics, we have, and this is the most common answer, 43% of our respondents were white, 34% were African.
Okay.
And again, to talk to the Commission for Employment Equity, they're saying that typically the industry is 33% white and 43% African.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a switch up there, but we've this sample isn't obviously representative of the entire industry, but with over 2,000 respondents, it's fairly representative of what's going on.
Yes.
The ages, the most common age is between 41 and 45 of our respondents, obviously the best age category of all of them.
I'd agree, Adrian.
Then the tertiary education, university degree, 19% of our respondents had 3-year kind of degree. And also, interestingly, 19% had a professional industry certification. Okay. Most commonly, 65% lived in Gauteng. We've discussed this previously before we came on air. But I think you found something interesting in the salaries around the locations.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that, because I think what it saw from the results was that the Western Cape had quite a large or a bigger amount in terms of their salary range versus their Gauteng counterparts, which was quite interesting for me. Is I think that is due to a lot of the growth in the Western Cape area for IT. In particular, one of the major banks is based in Stellenbosch, and they've been on a major hiring spree for the last 2 or 3 years in terms of IT professionals. So, I think that's had a big part to play as well. And then also, we've also seen a lot of fintech companies starting up in Cape Town. A lot of exciting development happening in Cape Town. So I think that's been a major drive for the salary side of it as well. I think things are slightly more expensive in Cape Town, so sure. I think people have to keep up with the sort of inflation and just the cost of things. I think generally it kind of does play to that there is quite a big demand in the Western Cape. which kind of would lead itself to why they're sort of commanding a higher salary bracket in the Western Cape.
And I suppose as well, we've also got the semigration factor, which obviously
Yeah,
cropped up during the pandemic, that people realised they could work remotely, and we'll come on to that a bit later.
exactly.
But yeah, I'm sure people have moved to that area, that side of the country, who
Yeah,
were previously based here.
exactly.
Okay, so then 85%, which is the most common response, are permanently employed. 58% work for a local company. And we've got local and global, and I think
Yeah,
there's a very kind of easy correlation there that you can see that typically the global employers are paying more than local
yeah.
employers. And again, that's something that's very easy to see on the benchmark tool.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I actually had a candidate this morning approach me, and we actually approached the candidate with regards to hiring him for a major bank in the Cape. And the candidate came back to me and he said, "Look, I work remotely in Cape Town for an international player, but I don't think you'll actually be able to meet my salary demands." And we got discussing and chatting at that. And I said to him, "Look, this is what the bank would be able to offer in terms of salary." And he came back to me and he says, "Unfortunately, I can't even consider it because there was probably, 1/3 on top of what the bank would
Wow.
offer that this candidate was actually getting extra from this company overseas. And he was working still in South Africa, but he was just obviously working remotely because you can do that. But yeah, getting paid significantly more than what one of the big banks in South Africa could. So that's, I guess, also poses a challenge then for companies to hire these type of skills that they so desperately need.
Yeah, I think one of the great things that you can do on the interactive tool is actually we could put that in
Yeah.
whether you're kind of working for an international employer, and then see where those salaries are
Yeah.
if someone's living in Western Cape or Gauteng. Like there's so many variables that you can kind of
Yeah.
work on there that you can actually benchmark and see where your salary is in
Fantastic.
comparison to other people. So then going back to some of the survey results, we have the highest ranking response for number of employees, so the size of the company, is for over 20,000 people.
Okay.
So it's obviously, it's widely spread across the entire industry of companies of all sizes. So the fact that you've got over 20,000 people who are working for those bigger companies, I think does show or give some credence to the research that is there, the kind of the input that we've got from our data. Something that I think we need to move on to is the benefits and the total package.
Yeah.
It's obviously important. Some people just get paid a salary. Some people get all sorts of extras. 67% said that they got a total package which included their cost of benefits. And the top 5 benefits received, and probably no surprises here, 66% said they received a pension fund, 59% said medical aid, 57% said performance bonus and incentives, 56% said compassionate or family leave, and 52% said maternity and paternity leave.
Yeah.
I guess as we're kind of seeing this pull for talent across the entire industry, and we've talked already about the international employers who are kind of looking for local to take our local talent. Are you seeing more on the benefit side? Is like benefits in addition to salary becoming more of a factor?
It's interesting, Adrian. It's looking at our clients that are higher than that, and across what's happening in South Africa is that generally benefits is important in that, and I think some of these bigger corporates can offer some really interesting benefits, with regards to bonuses and so forth. But I think looking overall with the candidates that we've sort of interacted with, most importantly would be sort of having a bonus. I think that's quite important. More on the managerial exec level, that would be shares. So
Okay.
the people would actually get some shares and stuff like that. And I've seen even the international companies giving the candidates shares in that. But interestingly enough, chatting to candidates and getting them to move to a company, one of the biggest things that we found, and for the guys to even have a discussion with a potential employer, has been around the remote working opportunity. or even, in Joburg, even a hybrid opportunity. Without that, and the candidates are just not interested in looking at an opportunity if there's not some sort of way that the person can work remotely or so forth. Even to the part where in the Western Cape, I think with the traffic issues and things like that, the candidates have just said, look, if you can offer me remote, then I will consider it. If not, it will be a problem. So, just looking at the benefits and the things, for me, is one of the biggest things has been hybrid or remote working for IT professionals. That's been a major one. And then, alternatively looking at bonuses and shares and like that. Obviously looking at the salary survey for so many years, interestingly enough, one of the big things for IT professionals at some stage before was actually the technical side or the education side in terms of improving skill sets and that. And interesting enough, we haven't really come across that as a major challenge for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Obviously candidates want to work on the latest technologies and things like that, but it sort of just seems, in the discussions with the candidates, that hasn't been sort of a major thing, maybe sort of fourth or fifth on their list at the moment. But right up there is definitely 10% or 20% increase to move. Remote working, that's a big one. And then obviously, what other incentives can they get by moving to a potential employer? Those have been sort of the standouts for us.
Well, I think when you mentioned the increases there, one of the factors that's come up is that typically the average salary increase where they are being awarded is between 3 to 6%. Now, 62% said they had received an increase in the last financial year, and 45% said that was between 3 and 6%. That's obviously if they're staying in the same company. And you expect to see a much higher increase if they move between companies, right?
Definitely. So, with sort of looking at our clients and that, the candidates that have been there, they've sort of expected a 3 to 6% increase. I think if they get a 6%, they're quite lucky over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at this year, I think for a candidate to move to an employer, there's definitely, they only consider anything above 10% to move.
Okay.
Last year it was even a little bit more. I would say then even like around about 20% for the candidates to consider moving. This year, I think the companies have kind of dug their heels in and they've said, look, we're going to look around 10% to offer a person to come work for us. But generally, that's what we've sort of found. The candidates that are currently there, they look at a 3 to 6% increase. And then the thing is to get the person to move. The companies have to become very creative in terms of, offering them a 10% plus increase. I think just with the cost of living being a little bit higher, things like that, candidates now are definitely moving to other companies or looking at other opportunities to kind of get their salary to match what their costs or the cost of living is at the moment. Interesting enough, what we used to see is also candidates kind of staying between 3 to 4 years at a company. That now we're looking at sort of 2 years, and the guys are looking to move on basically.
Okay. Because I was going to say, come on to that point next. I mean, the most common response is that actually they've been in their current role for less than 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's 36% of our respondents. So that ties in with what you're saying.
Yeah. I think they're just trying to match it with, sort of getting that increase there just to grow their income and so forth. So, we used to see the guys staying around for 3 to 4 years or so. Now, I'll tell you, if you look at a CV and it's longer than 2 years, you kind of question yourself, okay, what's happening here? But look, a candidate stays 1.5, 2 years, and they're ready to move on to their next opportunity.
Okay. Yes, I mean, talking about that, to go back to the average kind of respondent, they'll have been in IT operations and support, and that's 34%. And they've got 9 to 12 years experience. Yeah. So we're kind of looking at those mid-level employees, really. And that's 25%. So a quarter of our respondents have been working for about a decade in their kind of in the IT field.
Yes.
And then the top 3 skills that they kind of highlighted were leadership, was 12%, programming skills and app development at 10%, and business skills at 9%.
Yeah, we, sort of looking at our sort of requirements and so forth, there's still a big push for developers, Also, your more leadership roles within IT. We've noticed that where people can mentor or sort of look over developers and that type of thing. And then also, just sort of once again looking at quite a surge in project managers, business analysts. Interesting enough, more on the contracting side, not so many permanent positions, but more the companies actually doing 12-month contracts with the candidates in the beginning, that type of thing. And then also just sort of these new opportunities that are available in the market now. So things like DevOps and sort of on the cloud side, that's been quite a big growth area within the IT space over the last 2 years.
Okay. So I think I've kind of been through most of the key points, I think, from the survey.
Okay.
And there's obviously a lot that people, when they go online, they'll be able to kind of drill down and kind of work it out specifically that they are this type of person and they've got this much experience and whatever. But I think one thing we talked about local employers versus international employers. Obviously, emigration rather. We're seeing people moving away. It's not something I think is necessarily covered in this, but there's obviously this kind of where people can work remotely for international employers. What are you kind of seeing there? Are you seeing people leaving South Africa? Are you seeing people staying in South Africa but working for international employers? What's your kind of sense?
Yeah, Adrian, I see a little bit of both. From our side, I've seen candidates that are sort of moving every month overseas and finding opportunities, and then there's candidates that are sort of staying, but they definitely working remotely for these international companies, and whether that be for companies based in Holland or the Middle East, that's definitely something that we've definitely seen is that these guys are working remotely on behalf of these companies, and then like I said, there is candidates also that are sort of moving abroad at the same time. And then just on the local front, a lot of candidates also switching to move to the Western Cape to work. There's a lot of growth and opportunities there. So we've seen quite a large number of candidates moving to the Cape too.
I mean, I think perhaps one last statistic that I found quite interesting is the idea of kind of hybrid working. And obviously it was kind of a few companies did it before the pandemic. It kind of grew massively during the pandemic. And we're now in that phase where it's kind of normalizing. Are people expected to work remotely? Are they expected back in the office? So the results say that 43% said that their company was remote first working, which seems quite impressive. I don't think that's necessarily the case for other industries and other job functions within organizations. 21% said it was split working week, so sometimes in the office, sometimes at home, and 19% said it was office first working. How does that kind of correlate with the vacancies that you're seeing?
Look, the companies over, I would say, the previous 2 years in that remote working was or full remote working was an option. I've definitely noticed over the last, probably the last 12 months or so, that the companies are wanting the candidates to be back in the office for a certain period of time. Even if it's doesn't matter what type of IT role it is, but the candidate has to be present at the office for a certain period of time during a week. So, we've noticed that between 2 days, I think that's what they've said at the moment, is that 2 days a week you have to be present in the office, and you can kind of understand the logic around both sides. It is a lot more productive for an IT person, I think, to work remotely. Especially with traffic and all sorts of challenges and stuff like that. So the guys do get on with it, and they are productive. But I think also just, the companies are looking at it from a standpoint where they want some sort of collaboration with their colleagues in, I know you can do it on Zoom and things like that, but I think they want that collaboration, face to face, and have some FaceTime, and also just build up that sort of team spirit within the organization again. So I think, sort of a lot of companies are pushing back now and saying, look, you got to look between 2 to 3 days. You got to be back in the office, and then the rest of the time you can do some remote work at least.
Okay, that's been great. Ernie, have you got any final thoughts? Any kind of closing? You've been through the salary survey. I'm sure you've been through it much more thoroughly than I have. Is there anything that you think we've missed? Anything that kind of ties in with the wider trends that you're seeing in the industry?
No, it was actually fantastic to go through the salary survey. I thought it was very informative in terms of capturing what's happening in the market and so forth. For me, it kind of the interesting one was just to see the Western Cape growing with the salary wise and kind of that's understandable with the growth that's happening in terms of IT, and then just for me, on the remote working side, that was on the ground that has become a big thing for IT professionals. They're really pushing hard for that. At the same token, the companies are pushing back and saying, look guys, you got to spend some time in the office at least, but there's an argument for both, and
Sure.
it's understandable, but yeah, it's definitely, looking at the South African market at the moment, there is a lot of requirements. There's a lot of IT opportunities happening at the moment. There's a big drive for skills and stuff like that. It's just, I would say, we've got some really great talent in the marketplace and things like that. But it's just to, there is a bit of a drain, unfortunately, with candidates working for international companies. And then, just the push, in terms of matching the salaries with the companies at the moment, with the requirements and so forth. It is expensive, I think, at the moment to hire a candidate and to bring them over. So the challenges is obviously on the salary side, and obviously also just to find the right skill sets at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm sure the benefits as well that go with that.
With that,
it's not just the salaries, it's the whole package.
Exactly.
So before we let Ernie go, I just wanted to go through the salary survey, the benchmarking tool that we're putting up on ITWeb. Why don't you give me some kind of some criteria? So let's go through gender.
Okay.
Let's just pick male or female.
Okay. So let's pick male.
Okay, so let's say male. What sort of age category? We've got 20 to 25, 5-year increments all the way up to over 50.
I would say let's go 35 to 40.
Okay, so then let's go 35 to 40. Okay, let's apply those. And then we've got education. So we can do matric, further education, professional certifications, tertiary, honours, masters.
I think just a normal degree.
Just a 3-year tertiary. Okay. So then what's great is you can add all of those factors in, and then if we apply and we put it in, and then you can see the different salaries. So what I'll show you here, we've got 100% male. So of our survey respondents, 45% are between 31 and 35, and 52% are between 36 and 40. They're typically having that 3-year university degree, looking at 800,000 a year.
Okay.
But then we can also go down further, and 70% of those live in Gauteng.
Okay.
18% are lucky enough to live in the Western Cape. 89% are permanently employed. They most likely work in the IT industry. I mean, that's a bit of a kind of catch-all.
Yes.
They work in IT, so they might think that they might work in fintech, but think that they're in IT. So that's a bit 100%. Of a. And they most likely work for a local company, 71%.
Okay.
And their company size typically is between 3,000 to 5,000 employees.
Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of things that you can do there on the benchmarking tool. And then you can export it. So, for example, if you need to kind of justify a salary in a career or a financial negotiation with your boss, you can kind of export and say, well, look, these candidates are kind of earning this much. If it's for a new career or a new position, you can also kind of use those, or for benchmarking for any kind of international things.
Fantastic. Yeah, it looks like a great tool to utilize, Adrian. And I think both the candidates and also the potential employers will get a lot of benefit out of looking at a sort of benchmarking tool like that, to see where people fit in salary wise. I think it's a great tool to utilize, and by the look of the results and the numbers, and then it sort of ties in with what's happening on the ground, which is good. Fantastic.
Ernie, thank you for joining us today. That's been great. To our regular viewers, if you stayed this long, please like, share, subscribe. This has been ITWeb TV, and we've been talking about the ITWeb salary survey. Thanks, guys.